Some bands are built to last for decades, but this one on the other hand was really just meant to explode. They were a supergroup, a volatile cocktail of punk and metal royalty that was never ever meant to last. This was a band literally forged from a collision of music's most rebellious subcultures, American hardcore punk and Norwegian black metal. Putting these specific musicians in a room together wasn't just an experiment, it was like throwing a lit match into a fireworks factory. They called themselves Scum, and their story is as brief, violent, and unforgettable as their music. It's a legacy that burned ridiculously bright and fast, not unlike Icarus flying into the sun, and it left behind a single iconic album before being sealed forever by tragedy. Hey everyone, my name's Anthony, this is My Kinda Weird, and today you and I are going to explore the supergroup and bizarre music project called Scum, which took the best parts of Norwegian black metal and added in a little bit of American hardcore punk to get one single album. Now, back in 2002, an idea started kicking around the extreme music underground. A concept so wild it just felt almost impossible. What if you took the raw nihilistic fury of an American punk rock frontman and slammed it into the icy, misanthropic power of the Norwegian black metal elite? The result was Scum, a band that on paper should have really just been a train wreck, but in reality it created this perfect, ugly harmony. It was a project born from mutual respect and a shared goal to create something completely and utterly uncompromising. But with that kind of power comes serious volatility. The very forces that made Scum so potent were the same ones that guaranteed it could never survive in the long term. And that lineup for Scum was just ridiculous in the best way possible. It was a who's who of extreme music legends. At the microphone, the only non-Norwegian was vocalist Casey Chaos, who was known for his visceral, self-destructive stage presence as the frontman of hardcore punk band Amen. Coma America! And he was this true force of nature, the living embodiment of punk's confrontational, anarchistic spirit, with his art being this direct extension of his own turbulent life. You had this unholy alliance with this cabal of Norway's most respected and notorious metal musicians. On guitar, you had Samoth, the founder of legendary black metal band Emperor. Then you had former Emperor bandmate known as Faust on drums, and of course his intricate drumming was legendary in the scene. Rounding out that lineup, of course, was Crater of Zyklon and Turbonegro fame on second guitar, and Happy Tom, the bassist for the infamous death punk band Turbonegro, who brought his own unique rock and roll swagger into the Scum mix. So the central problem to this band was, how could these titans from totally different worlds and with their own huge bands possibly coexist? Of course, everyone knows that supergroups are notoriously difficult. Egos clash as the band gets more popular, management gets involved, record labels get involved, so it becomes quite turbulent. But really, with Scum, this was just an experiment in harnessing chaos. The mission, according to the band, was to play music and play black metal with a real punk rock attitude. It was the promise of something raw, something new, and something hopefully dangerous. Now, the only way to handle this much volatility was to channel it all into the studio, and the result was their one and only album called Gospels for the Sick. In a move that was pure Scum, the entire album was recorded in a single spontaneous session in Oslo, Norway in September 2004. And this wasn't some project that was agonized over for months, it was a snapshot capturing raw, unfiltered chemistry of these musicians in a single moment. The music was written by Samoth, Crater, and Casey Chaos, with Chaos penning all the lyrics and pouring his signature outrage and angst into every single line, and it had the dark, menacing atmosphere of black metal driven by Sammoth's iconic riffing, but fueled by this raw, street-level aggression of hardcore punk. Faust's drumming, on the other hand, provided a foundation that was less about complex black metal patterns and more about old-school thrash and punk, giving the album this relentless driving pulse. The production was intentionally left raw and dirty, dodging the polished sound that was common metal at the time. It sounded angry, immediate, and live, with tracks like Protest Life, the title track Gospels for the Sick, and the perfectly named Death Punk Scumfuck were basically manifestos of the Scum sound. It was this snarling, abrasive middle finger to conformity, to society. The album even roped in guest appearances from other giants in the Norwegian scene, like Nocturno Culto of Darkthrone and Mortis, which cemented this status as a truly unique collaboration across the board. Now, Gospels for the Sick was released in September 2005 and was met with generally positive reviews and even got a nomination for the Norwegian Alarm Award. But it wasn't universally hailed as this flawless masterpiece, but it was recognised for exactly what it was, a powerful document of rare and brilliant convergence of talent. Now, as you might expect from a project this experimental, Scum was never built for a long career on the road. The band only performed like a handful of times, which made every single show a legendary event for the fans lucky enough to be there. Their biggest performance was at a festival in Norway in the summer of 2005. This was the grand debut, a chance to prove that the chaos they captured on the album could be replicated and unleashed in a live environment. And by all accounts, it was every bit as explosive and raw as people have hoped. They also played a now famous show at the Camden Underworld in London, a legendary spot for punk and metal, with footage from that night showing the band in their element. Raw, energetic, and confrontational, Casey Chaos, ever the punk frontman, commanded the stage with his trademark intensity, backed by a wall of sound from the Norwegian crew that was both punishing and precise. But these rare shows were just flashes in the pan. They were never really meant to be a full-time touring band. I mean, just think of the logistics and the schedules alone. You've got members of Emperor, Zyklon, Turbonegro, and the frontman of Amen. Scum, for most of them, was an indulgence that couldn't really be sustained in the long term. The handful of gigs became more like special one-off events, which only added to the band's growing cult-like status. This was a flash in the pan that was brilliant, but the fade was very fast and quite inevitable. Now, after the album release and those few sporadic shows, Scum just sort of stopped. There was no big drama, as normally is the case. There was no public breakup announcement. The band simply went inactive. And honestly, it wasn't a failure. It was really just the project's natural end. So the real achievement here was getting all of those unique musicians into one room and creating what would be this one album masterpiece. The members, of course, went back to their respective worlds, with Sammoth and Faust remaining prolific figures in the Norwegian metal scene. Happy Tom returned to his duties with Turbonegro, and Casey Chaos went back to his work with Amen and other projects he was a part of. The Supergroup really fulfilled its purpose. It allowed these artists from different corners of extreme music to unite and create this one singular piece of art and then go their separate ways. And for nearly 2 decades, Scum became this unfinished chapter, a forgotten underground supergroup. The album became a cult artifact, a collector's item, and a testament to a time when the lines between punk and black metal blurred to create something truly powerful and really in your face. As the years went on, the legend of Scum only grew. The band's silence fueled its mystique, and Gospels for the Sick remained this cherished relic, While a reunion always seemed unlikely, the door was never officially bolted shut. There was always that faint hope among fans, that little what-if story, that these titans might one day get back together to unleash chaos on the world one more time. And unfortunately, that hope was extinguished forever on December 20th, 2024, when on that day, frontman Casey Chaos died of a massive heart attack in his home in California at the age of 59. He had reportedly been dealing with several health issues for years, including heart problems and high blood pressure, with his death sending shockwaves through the punk and metal communities and tributes pouring in from friends and fans alike, who remembered him as this unique and truly uncompromising artist. Unfortunately, with his passing, any possibility of a Scum reunion has really vanished, and he really was the unmistakable voice of the band and the American bridge to the Norwegian black metal scene for a lot of folks. The one ingredient that simply cannot be replaced. His death didn't end the band. It had been dormant for almost 20 years, but it has, at this point, really just sealed its fate. The story of Scum was no longer an open question. This volatile, brilliant, and chaotic experiment had reached its final, tragic conclusion, cementing its legacy as a one-of-a-kind collaboration that can never be repeated. So yeah, Scum was more than just this supergroup. It was an event. It was a brief, violent, and brilliant collision of legendary talent from two of music's most extreme frontiers, and they left us with a single ferocious album that stands as a monument to their impossible chemistry. The legacy of Scum is a story of what ifs and what was, a project born from a desire to break all the rules, and is really a legacy now permanently silenced, but forever etched into the history of punk and metal. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Scum. Really an incredible band, an incredible one-hit album wonder. So if you've enjoyed this video, leave a like and subscribe, followed by the bell. My name's Anthony from My Kind of Weird, and I'll see you guys in the next video.